Alright. Oh, he did?
Pavlov VR was released in February of 2017, and since then it has steadily gained a really strong and dedicated community which keeps coming back thanks to a consistent slew of updates over the years. The game has come a really long way since release, and one of the newest additions apart from the recent World War II update is the new support for haptics. I'm going to be going over how to set up the bHaptics with the game, as well as reviewing the overall setup and gaming experience with the haptics. This will hopefully be a series where I go over each supported game. Okay, make sure you guys are paying attention because this is really important. It's kind of complicated. I've tried to simplify it as much as I can, but just make sure you're paying attention because this is it can be a bit difficult. Okay, so all you need to do is go into the settings, click General, and then tick bHaptic Suit, and that's it. Okay, so for reviewing the setup, there's not really much for me to say here at all, if I'm being honest. This is a straight 5 out of 5 without a doubt. So in my last video I grazed over some of the ideal conditions for getting people into bHaptics, or just haptics in general, and one of the things I mentioned is the setup time. There's like pretty much none here. It takes like 3 or 4 seconds, so I think this really should be the goal for each supported game. In an ideal world, every game would be natively supported as they are here, but downloading and running different files and getting the games to work with haptics through mods rather than native support is definitely not ideal. Yeah, it's not the end of the world if you have to set up a couple of files, but for sure the more natively supported games we get, the better. So yeah, this is really good, and I would really like to see more of this from bHaptics. Okay, so the majority of the integration here is pretty good. More or less everything that you would expect to be here is here. The more or less part I'll get into later on, but let's just go over the positives. Just note that the overlay in the top left corner doesn't really show how strong or weak the intensities are for the different sensations, so I'll just try to explain it as best I can and you'll have to take my word for it. So pistols of course have the weakest intensity. The thing out of everything that I was most impressed with out of all the features here is that for literally every single different gun there is a different intensity. I was expecting different levels to be present mainly for the different classes of weapons. So for example, one intensity for the pistols, one intensity for the SMGs, assault rifles, snipers and so on. They would all have their own different levels of intensities. However, I was not expecting literally every single gun to go as far as to have like different sensations. This is like above and beyond, so it's really impressive. For example, a smaller pistol has a noticeably smaller recoil sensation than say a Desert Eagle. This is great as it adds a huge amount of variety to the weapons and really makes every weapon feel unique and compelling. Low-key it made me just want to try out every single gun just to see what sort of sensation I would get, which ones feel more powerful than others and so on. Also, the haptic feedback is based on the fire rate of each gun, which is a really nice touch. So for example with SMGs or assault rifles, if one gun has a much faster fire rate than the other one, then the sensation that you feel in your arms and upper chest will either decay much slower or faster depending on how fast the gun fires. This is just really nice attention to detail and just adds to the immersion. RPGs, shotguns and snipers have the strongest intensities, with pistols being the weakest. Okay, one other really quick thing, I'm just editing the video now and I realized I was wrong about something I said earlier. So the grenades, I think they're bugged. Even if they go off behind you, like 90% of the time from the testing that I did in the video, the impact that you feel is actually from the front most of the time. I'm not sure what this is, but yeah. The same concept of recoil applies to when you're being shot, of course, so different guns have different intensities. Honestly, this is like low-key scary when you get banged out of nowhere, especially with stronger weapons. Like, yeah, I got hit in the back with a shotgun and it actually scared me.
Ah! Oh!
It's not like horror, but it does make you a bit shook the first couple of times you play with it, or at least it did for me. The directional haptics can be quite useful as it alerts you to the direction you're getting shot from and therefore where the enemy is. Is this an unfair advantage? Not really. Chances are if you're getting shot from behind or somewhere you can't see, you're probably dead anyway by the time you realize or look back behind you. This is not especially true for all games, but definitely Pavlov, where the time to kill is relatively low compared to something say like Population 1, which I'll also probably do a video on. I think the haptics here when you're getting shot mainly enhance one-on-one encounters or direct confrontations rather than getting sniped a mile away from mid on Dust 2 or something like that. Okay, so for the haptic integration, I think it is really great here. As I said before, more or less everything that you would expect to be here is here, more or less. I say this because there is one really glaring issue that I just haven't been able to get used to so far. For me, this is probably the biggest thing that I feel is missing and would definitely add a lot to the game if it's added in a future update, for example. The issue is that when firing any weapon that you can hold with two hands, if you are holding them with two hands, you will only feel the recoil in your primary hand. So for example, I'm right-handed. If I'm holding an AR or an SMG or any two-handed weapon with both hands, I'll only feel the recoil in my right arm. So yeah, no recoil can be felt in your non-dominant hand. I'm not trying to trash on bHaptics or the developers or anything like that here, but I just want haptics in VR games to be the best they can be, so I want to try and suggest improvements. With that said, this is honestly quite off-putting if I'm being honest. I think the reason I dislike this so much is because I came from primarily playing Half-Life Alyx with haptics, and in that game, as well as Population 1, which also has the same thing, when you hold a gun with both arms, you will feel the recoil in both arms. So going from that to Pavlov, the difference is just night and day. I've never fired a gun in real life, but I'm pretty sure you would feel the recoil in both arms when firing two-handed weapons. I still haven't gotten used to this change, and I don't know if I will for as long as I keep playing Half-Life Alyx or other shooters that have this two-handed recoil feature. I really think that the game should be updated if possible to add this, but I don't know if it will. The first time I played it, it actually kind of pulled me out of the game rather than put me in it, since it is a very strange change that they left out, especially when the rest of the integration is as great and as detailed as it is. I don't think this is more realistic, and I've been thinking for quite a while about why they would leave such a thing out, and I can't really think of any real reasons. Depending on what games you play and depending on you, this might be a problem or it might just be a really minor thing. For me personally, it was a bit jarring. I haven't played a huge amount of Pavlov and even less with haptics, but I think I've played enough to not like this exclusion. I do think that maybe if I played a lot more, I would get used to it, but I did have to mention it in this video since I feel it's something that should be changed. Based on everything I've said here, I would give the overall experience with the gameplay and integration a 4 out of 5. Maybe this is a bit generous. Ideally it would be a 3.5 out of 5, but I don't really want to give half scores for individual sections, so I just rounded up to be nice. So the experience is overall amazing. The attention to detail for each different gun is insane, and the directional feedback from getting shot is thrilling. I really enjoyed playing Pavlov with bHaptics, and I would recommend it to absolutely anybody, especially with how non-existent the setup time is. If you have haptics, there's really no reason not to play this, so play it. I'm not sure what game I'm going to cover next, maybe Beat Saber? Or I don't know, we'll see. It depends what games I play, but yeah, thank you. Doo-doo land. Doo-doo land. Yes. What the hell is this? What the hell?
Ever been to the VIP room?
Oh my god.